This is Soundwave Radio 2014 on andrewhogue.com, Australia's only 24/7 rock metal radio station. We welcome this band back to Australia, but also their first appearance on Soundwave as well. We have Amos and James from UK's TESSERACT. Welcome to, of course, Soundwave Radio and andrewhogue.com, fellas.
Well, thank you for having us.
What's up, man? Thank
It's
you.
great to, of course, have the band back in Australia. And how has your Soundwave experience been so far? Obviously, we've covered Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. There's Adelaide and Perth to come. And fill us in on expectations, playing with a whole array of different types of heavy music bands as well, which I think is why the festival is such an attractive event, that it's not just one-dimensional or whatever.
Yeah,
so
for sure. I'm going to let you go first, and then I've got a different answer.
Well, I guess it's been an amazing experience. It's February in the UK, which, as you can probably imagine, is pretty grim. So to come here and be in the sun is wonderful. Secondly, we're on a bill with loads of artists which I massively love and respect. I met Phil Anselmo the other day. I'm a big Pantera fan. Gave him a big hug and I was like, yeah. And he was a bit like, who's this dude? Ugh. Moss got in the lift with Chino Marino twice the other day. That was very exciting.
The dude must think I'm following him. It was fucking hilarious. He gave me the best line as well. Got into the lift, realised it was going up when I wanted to go down, and the dude turns around and says, "What goes up must come down." I was like, really? Yeah. Chino just said that to me. Ha! That was funny, man.
And on top of that, I don't know, this is also just been great to meet up with lots of friends, like the band Circles, if you know those guys. We know them well, so it's good to see them. And the guitarist from Dead Letter Circus, never met them before, but we've all been in touch via the internet and that kind of thing. So it's been an all-round wonderful experience. Apart from all the mistakes, but that's where you come in.
That's it, man. It's a pretty cool thing. It's a fucking nightmare behind the scenes, though. Seriously, it's crazy. From a good way and a bad way. You know, there's technically a band like us. We've got loads of crap going on that you don't realise. Like in terms of just, we don't have any amps, so we've got tons of different things that we have to come here at 2 or 3 hours before the show just to set the shit up. And every night there's been something wrong, be it to do with the stage or be it to do with us, and it is massively stressful as well as massively enjoyable. So it's a bit of a weird experience for us, man.
So how do you get in the gap of that sort of thing when it's something you love doing, but as we know, being in a band, it's such a lot of hard work. People just think it's party 24/7, well, 23, of course, you need that hour on stage as well. But again, as you mentioned, behind the scenes, it's a completely different reality that the average punter doesn't have any clue about, or some bands tend to palm it down like everything's okay when it generally isn't. Things can go wrong all the time,
man.
But
it's part of being a musician is being able to be this magician who just, or even an illusionist, to make people think that everything is fantastic, everything's great, when 9 times out of 10 at a festival, everything is shit, man. Everything.
But then it depends on your perspective, because
this is true, yeah.
Because I think 9 times out of 10 things are actually decent, but that 1 out of 10 thing that goes wrong is really bad usually.
Yeah, you're right, man. It kind of colours the water, doesn't it? It makes you think everything's terrible. But when you have a tent full of 2,000 or 3,000 people watching you, I suppose you got to turn around and say to yourself, actually, it's all right, because these guys haven't fucked off yet. So, they're clearly staying for a reason, especially when there are 6 other stages full of fantastic bands. They could go and watch them, but they're watching us instead. So, from that point of view, it's always great, but from a technical point of view, these things are what's known as behind stage as a clusterfuck.
But as you mentioned, with obviously, the band's sound and gear and things like that, I mean, you really pride yourselves on such a digitized approach to music, and it's such I guess for a word, a beautiful sort of approach to it, because the music is so atmospheric and emotional and progressive as well. Are there times where you think, damn, if we strip this back just a bit, you'd fall out of that realm that you're sort of renowned for now, by maybe using less gear to prevent less problems?
Well, I think the whole digitized thing, ironically, was actually brought in more for convenience, using direct guitars and axe effects and stuff like that. It's cheap to travel with, your tones are all there. It was only fairly recently we moved to going direct. We used to use amps and effects and that kind of thing, and part of me still kind of misses that, actually. I miss having the warmth that a cabinet gives you. I guess it's maybe your own perception in your head, because it doesn't really make much difference out front, and there are far more irregularities with miking and loads more stuff that can go wrong in that sense. But Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's been like a direct kind of choice to be all digital. It's just kind of through convenience, really.
That's it. Everything we do just to make it easier for ourselves and to be able to take the sound that we create in the studio to the stage.
Because I think fans today have such an expectation on all bands now. They want to hear live what they hear on record, and there are a lot of bands that tend to overproduce themselves on album, and some of them at certain times aren't as good as what they let on, and some fans might not want to watch them live, but they're happy to listen to it at home, but that's fine. But live, you go there and you kind of expect it, and sometimes the sound isn't the band's fault. It's usually a poor room or venue, and usually the bands are first to get blamed by people.
No sound check and
Let's talk about genres. I've been using this question generically for a lot of artists on this festival about the amount of genres that are happening in music today, the segregation. A lot of these bands are lumped into genres that they didn't even want to be, or they don't even know why. And again, the gent scene is a retarded name, I'm sorry, but there's some great bands within that scene. I just hate the word. What's your take on all that sort of labelling?
I remember in like sort of like the 90s, I used to take the mickey out of the dance music scene with all their subgenres.
Yep.
Like you had to like
two-step
tech
garage,
house,
jungle.
hard house, garage, two-step garage, UK garage, US garage. It's like basically people use like sub genres purely to create some kind of new buzz or exciting thing. At the end of the day, it's all just fucking rock music, isn't it?
Exactly.
Let's be honest. Like,
Yeah, I mean, no, but the thing about Gen, it's almost like, we've said this many times before, it's almost like new metal. It's just a springboard to, like James has just said, just to get a buzz going. And to be honest, it's the same progressive rock that's been played for the past 20 or 30 years. It's just tones are slightly different. Doesn't make it any different. I mean, like Devin says, we'll copy Meshuggah basically with everything we do, but
we like to partially take credit for that line.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we did a tour with him, and I'm pretty sure he's watching us every night, going, "These motherfuckers are copying Meshuggah." But basically, it's just a name as well. I mean, who gives a fuck what somebody else calls you, so long as you're
as you
not going to
it,
change?
My sort of query about the whole thing with the buzzword, it happened with new metal, as you said. Problem was, to me, when Korn busted out, the best example, they did something completely unique. All of a sudden, massive success. Everyone comes along and emulate that. We're going to be successful too. We're going to tap into the formula. All of a sudden, the scene gets saturated, drenched. People just go, I'm so sick of hearing that sound. All of a sudden, you're left with a few that might hang around, and others might sort of revisit it for nostalgic purposes. Like Korn, people are just loving everything that they're playing on this festival because they still remain true to their sound. And I think that can be dangerous when bands get lumped into categories that they don't want to be. Do you keep that in the back of your mind about the future of Tesseract musically, that if 5 years Gen is no longer the in thing for some people?
Well, I mean, from our point of view, we were never following any ideal anyway, except the ideal that we wanted to create heavy music that was melodic. I mean, like from the first album, we were wanting to move away from the sound that was expected from us, but we felt we didn't have a name, so we almost felt we kind of had to add, say, screaming and heavy vocals, but we were never into that. And then we were so lucky that we get to album 2 that we've got a name, and we're like, okay, we can move away from this now.
Yeah, but I don't think we chose to have heavy vocals for any purpose other than it was heavy, and we're like, oh, that works.
Kind
it was
of
easy.
what we, it was like what is expected.
Well, no, just sort of what do we think works here? Well, we listen to Meshuggah, and a Meshuggah style vocal fit.
Yeah, but it's always been we've always had the mind that, great, if people want to listen to us, but we're not going to try and cater the ideas to those people now. In the past perhaps, but we're lucky that we've managed to make a name for ourselves, because progressive music is about freedom, and we feel kind of lucky in the sense that a lot of the stuff we've done we've been able to get away with, and it's all been about just whatever we want to do that day.
And any plans for the future material? Obviously, Old State you've been touring quite heavily on since it's been released, and obviously been well and truly acclaimed and accepted. Do you just kind of let Tesseract evolve as naturally as it should be, without really any kind of direction of where you want to take it?
I think it basically is just wherever the mood takes it. Like, I guess as Moss was probably saying, Altered State was, I guess, very much influenced by previous influences and ideas and things that that work, and Did I say Altered State? I meant, sorry, the first album, One. And then Altered State was, I feel, was the first proper sort of step out into really what do we think works best and what we're happy to do. And I'd like to think that would be the course that we just keep taking, really. Just go with the flow, see what happens. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Don't try to do anything for any reason.
I mean, the next album may be as melodic as Altered State, or perhaps it will be a revisit to a less melodic sound. We really don't know.
There's definitely some heavier riffs kicking around.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, maybe we'll crack open a can of chunkiness, but I'm sure, to be honest, there is always going to be a melodic streak. It's just something that we enjoy. So I'd expect it to be epic and melodic, but it could also be crushingly heavy, just because we quite enjoy that as well. So we really don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see when we finish in about 12 months or see what the album sounds like.
Alrighty, we'll keep us posted here. Of course, we feature lots of Tesseract here on andrewhogue.com. We can get you guys to choose your favourite track between you from the latest record, Altered State. Which one? That's not is that a B-side?
That's a B-side, shit. I don't know.
I think Nocturne's a safe option. It's a safe option.
Would it go with a hit single, one with a bullet?
Yeah.
Alright. Yeah,
Or Singularity.
It's a long track.
No, I've always said there's no time limit on good music. I've played the Atomic Bitchwax one-track album 44 minutes many times.
As you probably know, Century Media actually marketed Altered State as an 80-minute album. Is it 80 minutes? No,
not
60 minutes. 60-minute track, one track, 60 minutes. So I think if you want to choose a track, the track is Altered State, as sold to us by Century Media.
If you've only got to do a little section, then maybe Exiled.
Yeah.
That's actually my favourite one at the moment. It's just got loads of crap going on. It's good times.
All right, let's check it out now here on andrewhogue.com. Thanks, Amos and James from Tesseract.
Thanks, pal.